So, I never filmed a March favorites video, and I thought about combining March and April favorites, but then thought otherwise, and it's probably best that I'm not combining them. In this video, I have an entire movie series to talk about, and then music stuff. First, I'll talk about the movies, then music, but before I start with that, I'm just going to say that I always have a bunch of things linked and listed in the description. When it comes to music, if I mention a song that has a music video, I'll link the music video, as well as each month I create a Spotify playlist of favorite songs and albums that I've been listening to throughout that month. So I will link my March favorites. And I have this light here because I tried to film this like 2 other times with different angles and different lighting, and for some reason, the editions of the movies that I have just don't show up very well. It is what it is, so this is the lighting situation. And then when it comes to the movies, I will have links in the description for these editions. There's probably going to be an Amazon and Blu-ray.com link. And so just sort of a backstory with these. These are, I'll show you the editions here. The series that I have to show you and talk about is the Harry Potter series. These are French limited edition steelbooks. I got these last year for my birthday. I don't know if they're still available. I'm just these ones because they are just the editions that I liked the most from everything that I could get with the Harry Potter series. So I'll show you each film and talk about them a bit. It's really hard for me to talk about like solely the Harry Potter movie though. I tend to talk about the books as well, which I think is bound to happen when you're talking about a series that's been adapted, at least for me as a reader. So first we have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone as it's called in the UK. Again, these are French, but like the only thing that's French about them is the title on here, and again, like I don't know how well it's going to show up because I was having lighting problems. So only the title on the steelbook itself, on the spine, on the front, and on the discs. That's the only thing that's like French about them. And then each one also comes with 2 discs. The first disc is the film, and then the second disc are the special features. Some of them do have other supplements on the first disc, but for the most part, it's all on the second disc. So, I think that's everything that has to do with all of the steelbooks. This first one here has the Sorting Hat on it, and whatever like the main object is on the cover is like reflective and glossy. Everything else, like the background, has a matte finish to it. And then on the back is a photo of Harry getting sorted. So I had only seen the first 3 Harry Potter films when I was a kid, and I just never continued, and the same thing happened with the books. I read the first 3 when I was a kid and then never continued. I don't really know why. I do remember that the 3rd book and film were my favorites of the 3 that I had read and seen, but I watched the first 2 films over and over and over and over again. Watching it again now, it's been a couple years or maybe just 1 year since I had previously seen this, like most recently. The effects are interesting because they're not quite to the point where it's super cheesy. It still has that like nostalgic factor to it, I think. But I do think that they're really good for the time that the films came out. And especially the first one because it introduces everything. It's a classic. It's a classic. Is it a classic? I consider it like a modern classic. It's the kind of classic that you say, oh, that's a classic, but you don't actually mean it in the sense of like, oh yeah, that came out 80 years ago. And then we have the second one, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which has like the opening to the Chamber of Secrets. And then on the back is Harry in the chamber. And there's like the diary on the ground there. This one I actually really like. I think the movie gets a better reputation than the book does, but I think for the most part it's it's like the least favorite book in the series for fans of Harry Potter. At least that's what I've heard from like a lot of people that I watch on YouTube who talk about the Harry Potter series. I really liked the second book. For me, they just like kept getting better as I was reading them until I got to a certain point. And I'm gonna like talk about like favorites and stuff. I'm gonna talk about favorites when it comes to books and movies. But again, this is just like super enjoyable, and it's still to the point where like I feel like the first two are the most similar among the series, both in terms of book and movie, because they have a similar structure, whereas I guess I don't really have that much to say about Chamber of Secrets, other than I feel like it doesn't do Ginny justice, just in general, because I remember not really liking Ginny as a kid, because they make her seem like almost a bad guy. Yeah, because like she's basically introduced a tiny bit. You like learn her name in the first one, and then she's actually a character in the second. But she's like half possessed by Tom Riddle the whole time. So it makes her seem like she's not good in a way. That's the way I interpreted it as a kid, at least. As like a 7-year-old. But sort of continuing that thought that I was saying earlier, here we have the third film, The Prisoner of Azkaban, and this is when it starts to change concept a bit, get darker, which I really like. It gets dark within like the story, but also the tone of the film is also darker. As well as this is when I start to notice like the direction more, like as in the style of directing. Noticing certain camera angles and like the way a scene flows, the way the camera moves, stuff like that. And that kind of goes into why this one is my favorite film. It's also my favorite book, but I think really for those reasons why the book and the movie are my favorite of the series is because it has elements that I just really enjoy and that I just take a particular liking to. So with this one, oh, by the way, Sirius Black here is on the back. This one has like a lot of connecting involved, and I love that feeling when you're watching a movie or you're reading a book and there's information that you're reading about or you're getting in that scene. You're connecting that information with things that you've already read about or already seen, again, depending on if you're reading a book or watching a film. And with this, there's kind of two ways that that's happening, because there's the time turners, so you have like Harry and Hermione going back in time to scenes that you've already seen, and then you're seeing how it was actually happening, how you're seeing like a bigger picture basically, and how things were happening in the moment, and it's like different than the way that you originally thought when you were first in the scenes. I'm having a hard time explaining this for some reason. But then there's also the connection to like the further past with Harry's childhood and before he was born, because you have the introduction of characters who were closer to his parents. You have Sirius Black. You have Remus Lupin, who is one of my favorite characters, and Peter Pettigrew. I also think that when you are consuming the story for the first time, whether it's the film or the book, and you get to Peter Pettigrew's character and Sirius Black, you're like, what is happening? It's kind of, obviously I'm like going to go into spoilery stuff here with the series here, but it's almost like a double twist. Following the dog, and then the dog turns out to be Sirius Black. And then Lupin was following them the whole time. And so then Lupin comes in and then like hugs Sirius Black, and you're like, oh my god, Lupin, I liked you. Because you have this idea that Sirius Black is like out to get Harry and that he's a bad character. But then it's even like a further twist, because you learn that Sirius Black is actually like the good guy and Peter Pettigrew is the bad guy. And then another plot twist: Peter Pettigrew is the rat, is Scabbers, who's been living with Ron for his entire life. That's so weird. I still like the fact that they were like their rat was a person the entire time. And also, I mentioned that Lupin is one of my favorite characters, so that's another reason why this one's my favorite. My three favorite characters, by the way, from reading the series mostly, because I think Lupin was my favorite before I had read the entire series last year, but Harry is really my favorite character. Harry's my favorite character, and I never thought that I would say that, especially because usually I'm the type of person who gravitates more towards the side characters, or like the best friends of the main character. But my three favorite characters are Harry, Lupin, and Luna. So I want to know who your favorite Harry Potter characters are, as well as which is your favorite book and movie of the series. So this one's my favorite book and movie. And then we have Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the fourth movie, and also my finger's covering it up, but each one is labeled with like what year it is, in case you couldn't figure it out, I guess, but also it's just like a nice detail. And then on the back is Dumbledore holding Harry's name after it came out of the Goblet of Fire. And this one, I really like this one. Again, it's hard for me to differentiate between, or like to talk about just the movie, because even though it's not my favorite book, I think it's the best book, because you get to the end, I think it's really well constructed. You get to the end, and the whole time, again, here we go, I'm going to go into spoilery information here. The whole time, Mad-Eye Moody has been Barty Crouch Jr. And that's just so many details that need to line up, and like things that need to happen in order for that to completely make sense. And just like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. I think it's just really well executed, because first, you think that Mad-Eye Moody has been a bad guy the whole time, and you're like, I trusted you, Mad-Eye Moody. And then you get to the point where it's not even Mad-Eye Moody, so I don't even know who Mad-Eye Moody is. Like, I don't really know him, because it's been an imposter the whole time. Again, with a sort of like twist after twist, sort of like Prisoner of Azkaban with what I was explaining. Yeah. I just think that it's just so well written. I don't think anyone could have been able to figure that out, to figure out that it was Barty Crouch Jr. and not Mad-Eye Moody. Maybe, like, I figured that Barty Crouch Jr. would have something to do with the story, whether it was the Goblet of Fire or a further book, but I did not think that Mad-Eye Moody was actually Barty Crouch Jr. I knew that the scene where he's introduced was like important for a reason. There's significance as to why the scene is being included in the book in the first place, but I hadn't tried figuring out why that is. And then it turns out to be like, because he's Mad-Eye Moody. Then I also like going back and seeing exactly how he got to infiltrate Hogwarts, basically. And a lot of stuff is taken out with the movie. I definitely think you would have been able to figure out that Barty Crouch Jr. was posing as Mad-Eye Moody because of like that like tongue thing he does, like that thing, and certain like visual gestures that aren't really things that you necessarily pick up when you're reading a book, but like when you're seeing it on screen, it's more noticeable. The only thing that I don't like about this movie is that I think the scene at the very end of the book, where Harry's like, Voldemort is back, and they're like in the hospital wing, and Harry's explaining everything, and Dumbledore is like, we have to do stuff, but then freaking Fudge, he's my least favorite character. He's the worst. He doesn't believe Harry, and he just goes on, and it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating. But I think that it's so important because this is when people start to take sides, and it's when like action really needs to be done instead of speculation, or instead of speculating and like not proceeding with enough caution, basically. And also, like, I'm really like praising the the Goblet of Fire as like a story in general, but the reason why it's not my favorite is basically because of the elements that I like that are in Prisoner of Azkaban, but also I'm not much for like the sports stuff or like the competition stuff. So I didn't really care about the Triwizard Tournament or the Quidditch World Cup. So I like the puzzly aspect to the Triwizard Tournament, like with like the riddle that Harry has to figure out with the egg. Like I would have preferred it if it was a bit more intellectual, I guess. Then we have the 5th movie, which is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is probably my least favorite book, just because you could kind of see where things were going, and Harry's very frustrating in this. He's frustrating in the movie as well, but also, like, I love Harry's sassiness. I cannot remember which one it's in, but, like, everyone knows that line where it's like, "You don't have to call me sir, professor." He says that to Snape. I can't remember which one that's in, but that's, like, easily one of the best lines. On the back, I forgot to show you, is them in the Ministry of Magic, Dumbledore's army, or at least, like, 7 of the members, which is probably my favorite part of the Order of the Phoenix, especially with, like, how aggressive Umbridge is just, like, attacking the school in a sense of putting her decrees up and rules. I liked seeing Umbridge like as a character in the film as well, because it kind of made her like more playful in a way. Ew, I don't like I don't like using the word playful, but like I don't really find her that intimidating. I think she thinks she holds a lot of power, but it's literally like just because Fudge is using her. I don't know, but I liked seeing her, and I liked seeing her more than reading her, I think, because you can easily see that contrast of like this short lady in all pink, obsessed with cats, and she has like the cat plates behind her in her office, and that contrasting with her personality and like what she does with the students in an aggressive punishing way. Yeah, I like seeing that contrast. Similar to the book, I feel like Sirius Black's death wasn't like impactful enough, because when I was reading the book, I didn't even realize that Sirius Black died. I was just like, wait, he died? And I was really confused as to what was happening. But maybe it's because I'm not so good at reading like action scenes. And then we have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which is my second favorite book, probably my second favorite movie as well, just because, again, this includes a lot of things that I really like. I love origin stories and prequel stories, and this is basically the origin story of Voldemort. A lot is taken out for the movie, though, which is unfortunate, but I still liked it. On the back here, you have Harry looking over the pensieve, and then these are like the vials that the memories are in. On the front here, yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to say about this one, just because it's Voldemort's backstory for the most part. And then we have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, and this has Slytherin's locket on it after it's been destroyed, yeah. And then on the back is Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And I actually like the parts of the Deathly Hallows that it's just the 3 of them, like, camping, hiding out, trying to find the Horcruxes and destroy them, and also not be captured by the Death Eaters. There's just so much that goes on in the Deathly Hallows in general. I'm not exactly sure, like, where to even start with these. So then we have the last film, Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2. On the back is Voldemort and Harry dueling, and then on the front, I don't know if you could like really tell. It's easier to see when the glare is on it. It's the Deathly Hallow symbol. And then there's the Elder Wand, like where the Elder Wand goes in the symbol. And I think the only like complaint I have about this, because I think especially once you get to like once you get to the fourth film maybe, or like the second half of the fourth film, everything just starts going really fast paced because there's so much that is going on. But with the movies, you really have to keep the story succinct to what's most important. And the only thing that I don't like about this film so much is that it like really abruptly ends. It's just like Voldemort is gone and then they're like, oh yeah, it's over now. Those are the Harry Potter films. And so the rest of the stuff is just going to be music. And I have my notebook here. I'm opening up to the page. I'm going to go through this just in terms of groups. Again, a lot of them are K-pop groups, but there's like one band that I was listening to that isn't a K-pop group. So the first group here, we have 17, and I was trying to learn members' names and learning more about them personally. So I was watching a lot of videos and enjoying that. I was listening to their third mini album called Going 17 the most, and then I listed some songs that I was listening to and that I loved. Like, these are legitimately my favorite 17 songs. So we have Habit, Don't Wanna Cry, Crazy in Love, I Don't Know, which is probably my favorite, Mansae, Clap, and Fast Pace. And then EXO, my favorite K-pop group. I was listening to their first and second mini albums, Mama and Overdose, as well as their first Japanese album called Countdown. And I was mostly listening to Run This and Cosmic Railway, which literally sounds like an anime. It's beautiful. And then the three songs that I was listening to that were my favorites, just from EXO in general, were Heart Attack, Thunder, and Two Moons. And then Suho, the leader of EXO, one of the members of EXO, he released a song called Dinner with Jang. And I really liked that one. They released another one, but I didn't like it as much, so I just wrote down Dinner. And then also EXO had, they were live on V-Live on the 18th of March, and that was really entertaining. I don't really know what they were saying. I don't know what was going on, but it was funny. And then NCT, they released their Empathy album, like their first full-length album as a full group, which is really exciting. And I don't know if, I've heard that they might be adding like more members. Like, that's a thing that they're going to be doing, but I don't know that for sure. But there's 18 members currently in NCT, which is ridiculous. Crazy. They were on Weekly Idol, which this is one of my favorite things that I wrote down, because the members were introducing themselves, and they basically just formed a line and went in front of the camera and said, introduce themselves, and then just turned away and went to like the end of the line, basically. And it took the cameraman like 5 people into the line again to realize that they were reintroducing themselves. And I just thought that was really funny, because there's so many of them that the cameraman didn't even notice that they were like just saying their names again and gonna go through the line again. I think it's really funny. And then GOT7, I was listening to their song Look the most, because they weren't on Spotify, but now they are. In April, JYP artists came onto Spotify, which is really great, because I've been missing out on GOT7 songs and other songs by other groups, mostly GOT7 though, because the way that I listen to K-pop is Spotify and YouTube for the most part, but like I basically watch music videos, so if a song doesn't have a music video, it's less likely that I'm going to be familiar with it, unless it's on Spotify. And they also have episodes of this, like a series called On the Scene, which I was really liking. PENTAGON, I was listening to their songs Can You Feel It and Like This a lot, as well as I realized I didn't know the members' names, which was weird because I had been really into them for like a couple of months now, well, at the time that I realized this, but I didn't know the members' names, but now I know them. And then the rest are just like a bunch of songs by random people, by random groups, so I'm gonna say like the song names and then like by whoever it is. So we have Candyland, So Dangerous, Catch Me, and Attention by Uptension. The Spotlight EP by VAV, Flower Road by Big Bang, Replay, Rescue, and View by SHINee, Walkin' in Time by the Boyz, Bonnie and Clyde by Dean, L.I.E, which is like more like an acronym. I don't know if it actually stands for something or if it's just like all capitalized for no reason. By Penomeco, also produced by Zico. Also the song Good Morning by Penomeco. Jealousy by Monsta X, as well as the Connect mini album, which at the time I didn't have favorites yet, but like now I do, which is in April favorites. Sanctify by Years and Years, which this is the only like non-K-pop group. They have a new album coming out in like June or July, and so they released a single, and I'm really excited for the album. Promise I'll Be, ADTOY, which stands for All Day I Think of You, Higher, Nobody Else, Only You, and My House by 2 p.m., Daydream by J-Hope, Jenga by Haze, Rubber Band by Icon, and District 9 by Stray Kids, and their I Am Not album, but at that point I didn't have any favorites yet from the album, so just District 9 because they had a music video for it. And my phone is going to run out of battery, so that came out really spastically. I'm trying to end before that happens. So thank you for watching. Tell me what was happening in March for you. Talk to me about Harry Potter and your favorite book and film and characters. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!